My mother's funeral was solemn and dignified, with all the guests being prominent figures. However, at that moment, my father Jiang Jinting walked in with a woman and a boy who was only a year younger than me. He pushed the boy in front of me and said in a gentle yet unyielding tone, "Chan, this is your brother Linen. He is innocent, and you must take good care of him." I looked at the hypocritical couple in front of me, glanced at my mother's portrait with her eyes wide open in death. And then, in front of everyone, I threw 2 paternity test reports right in Lin An's face. "Dad, you're right. He is indeed innocent. After all, he's not even your own flesh and blood." The air instantly froze. The MC's eulogy came to a halt mid-sentence, his voice catching in his throat as if someone had grabbed him by the neck. The gazes of all the guests in the hall shifted from my mother's black and white portrait to my father Jiang Jinting's face, which turned from red to pale. Then from pale to dark. The woman beside him, Lu Wanru, instantly lost all color in her delicate, pitiful face. She instinctively screamed, "You're lying, that's impossible." Jiang Jinting's reaction was much faster than hers. He rushed forward in a flash, raising his hand to slap me. "Jiang Qian, have you lost your mind, causing a scene at your mother's funeral?" His wrist was caught mid-air by a stronger hand. Shen Yuji, my mother's private lawyer, had somehow stepped in front of me at some point. He was dressed in a well-tailored black suit, and his gaze behind the gold-rimmed glasses was as cold as ice. "Chairman Jiang, resorting to violence at a funeral is rather undignified." Jiang Jinting tried to pull his hand back but couldn't break free, his face turning a purplish red as he roared, "This is a family matter. You're an outsider. Get lost, an outsider." Shen Yuji released his hand and leisurely adjusted his cuff. "Ms. Su Wan entrusted me as the executor of her will before her passing. I'm afraid today, I don't quite count as an outsider." In a single sentence, I managed to extinguish half an inch of Jiang Jinting's rage. My mother, Su Wan, is the true mastermind behind the Su Corporation. Jiang Jinting is merely a son-in-law who rose to prominence by relying on her. Over the years, he has grown more confident, cultivating his own faction within the company and sidelining my mother. However, he still dares not easily shake the foundation of the Su family. I bent down, picked up the paternity test report that had fallen to the ground, elegantly brushed off the dust, and handed it back to Jiang Jinting. "Dad, don't get worked up. This report is in duplicate. 1 copy is for you, and the other is for my mom. See how thoughtful Mom was, even in death. She's helping you figure out whose child the son you've raised for 17 years really is." My voice wasn't loud, yet it clearly reached every corner of the funeral hall. The murmurs among the guests surged like tidal waves. Raised for 17 years, not his own. Oh my God, Jiang Jinting is wearing such a green hat. Su Wan is too ruthless. Even in death she had to set him up. Jiang Jinting's body swayed, his eyes fixed on me with a death glare, as if he wanted to tear me apart with his gaze. Lu Wanru had already rushed over, trying to snatch the report, but I easily avoided her. She cried pitifully, tears streaming down her face. "Jinting, don't believe her. She's jealous, she's lying. How could Linen not be your son?" she cried as she went to pull the boy named Linen. Linen had been pale-faced and standing there in a daze the entire time. Now, as his mother yanked him, he finally snapped back to reality, his eyes filled with fear and confusion. I laughed, a laugh so innocent and radiant, just like when my mother was still alive and I was the naive young lady of the Jiang family, lying. My mother's lawyer is right here, and the institution that authenticated this report is the most authoritative in Beijing. Should we call the police right now and accuse me of forging documents? I turned to Shen Yuji. "Attorney Shen, how many years should one be sentenced for forging a paternity test?" Shen Yuji adjusted his glasses, the lenses reflecting a cold light. "Depending on the severity of the circumstances, the maximum penalty can range from 3 to 10 years in prison." Lu Wanru's crying abruptly stopped. Jiang Jinting snatched the report from my hands. Those eyes that had once been gentle and affectionate toward me were now filled with nothing but venomous hatred. He quickly flipped to the last page. When he saw the bold black characters stating, "Excluded biological relationship," his proud composure finally shattered completely. Like an enraged beast, he tore the report into shreds with a sudden fury. "It's fake, all of it is fake," he roared. As the torn paper fluttered down like snowflakes, that poisonous woman, Su Wan, even in death, She won't let me have peace." His hysterical demeanor was a stark contrast to his usual gentle and refined image of a successful person. The guests' gazes towards him had shifted from sympathy to outright disdain and mocking amusement. There is no greater humiliation for a man than this. I watched his madness coldly, feeling no satisfaction in my heart, only a desolate chill. "Mom, did you see that? This is the man you loved your whole life, too." The funeral ended hastily amidst a farce. After the guests had all left, only a few of us remained in the mourning hall. After venting his anger, Jiang Zhenting slumped into the chair as if drained of strength, his eyes bloodshot, fixed intently on me. Lu Wanra supported him, still sobbing softly, but her tears now carried a touch of genuine despair. As for that linen, he kept his head lowered the entire time, like a transparent shadow. "Jiang Qian." Jiang Zhenting's voice was hoarse, like sandpaper grating. "What exactly are you trying to do? What do I want to do?" I walked up to my mother's portrait and reached out to touch the cold edge of the frame. "I just want to fulfill my mother's last wish." I turned around and looked at Shen Yuji. Shen Yuji understood and took a document from his briefcase. "Chairman Jiang, Mrs. Liu, according to Ms. Su Wan's will, all her shares in the Su Group, as well as all real estate, cash, and funds under her name, are to be inherited solely by her daughter, Ms. Jiang Qian." Jiang Zhenting suddenly stood up. "Impossible. We are husband and wife. Half of her assets should be mine." "I'm sorry." Shen Yuji's tone was completely unemotional. "Ms. Su and you signed a prenuptial agreement stating that your marital assets are separate. Moreover, Ms. Su has provided me with complete evidence of your marital affair with Ms. Liu and the birth of your son Lin, and, legally speaking, you are the at-fault party and have no right to claim any portion of Ms. Su's estate." Jiang Zhenting's face turned completely ashen. He had schemed and calculated his entire life, only to end up with nothing in the end. "Evidence? What evidence?" Lu Wanra asked sharply, clutching at her last hope. "We've always been very careful." She stopped mid-sentence, suddenly covering her mouth and looking at Jiang Zhenting in panic. "A pig teammate." I sneered inwardly. Shen Yuji acted as if he hadn't heard and continued. "The evidence includes, but is not limited to, all your hotel check-in records, financial transactions, and the properties and trust funds purchased for Mr. Lin from 17 years ago to the present. Every single transaction is documented." Jiang Zhenting staggered back a step, as if all the bones in his body had been pulled out. He knew that Su Wan never fought a battle she wasn't prepared for. If she said there was, then there must be. Additionally, Shen Yuji paused and dropped the final bombshell. "Ms. Su has also transferred her 30% equity stake in your private company, Chairman Jiang, to Miss Jiang Qian." Jiang Zhenting suddenly looked up, his eyes filled with disbelief. That company was the foundation of his independence from the Su family and his greatest pride. My mother had actually acquired 30% of the shares in his company without his knowledge. "When did she?" Jiang Zhenting muttered to himself, utterly devastated. "Probably," I answered for him. "It was when you first used the company's money to buy your beloved Wanru her first Hermes bag," my mother once said to me with a smile. "Men are unreliable, money and shares are the most dependable." She spent half her life teaching me this lesson. 3. Jiang Zhenting was utterly defeated. He sat there like a petrified statue, motionless. Lu Wanra's sobbing also stopped. She stared blankly at Jiang Zhenting, then at me, her gaze shifting from despair to venomous hatred. "Jiang Qian, don't be so smug," she suddenly sneered. "Do you think you've won? Your mother fought me her whole life, and in the end, I still made her die of anger. Now, you've become a motherless wild child too." Slap, a crisp slap. I withdrew my hand and coldly watched the red handprint quickly appear on her face. My mother taught me not to argue with dogs, it's a waste of breath, but she never taught me that if a dog bites you, you can't fight back. Lu Wan recovered her face, screamed, and tried to lunge forward, but was stopped by the bodyguard Shen Yuji had brought. "How dare you hit me, Jiang Zhenting?" "She hit me." She cried out to Jiang Zhenting for help. Jiang Zhenting, however, seemed not to hear. Still lost in his own world, Lu Wanra's heart turned completely cold. She knew that the great tree she had relied on for 18 years had fallen, and I just watched them coldly. "Starting today, you have two choices." My voice was not loud, but it carried an undeniable authority. "First, take your son and disappear from my sight immediately. Second, I will call the police and charge you with commercial fraud and bigamy. I paused, my gaze falling on Linen. Oh, and there's him, although I don't know whose child he is, impersonating a descendant of the Jiang family and attempting to seize the Jiang family's assets. This charge alone is enough to put him away for a few years. Linen suddenly looked up, on his face, which bore some resemblance to my father's but was more delicate, an emotion other than fear appeared for the first time. It's anger. He yelled at me. I never thought about taking over the Jiang family's property. It was all my mom, and then Lu Wanra sharply interrupted him, her eyes filled with warning, but Linen paid no attention. With red-rimmed eyes, he glared fiercely at his mother. You told me he was my father. You made me come to acknowledge him. You said that as long as I pleased him, we would never have to live a hard life again. A series of questions pierced Lu Wanra's heart like knives. Her face turned deathly pale, her lips trembled, but she couldn't utter a single word. Jiang Zhenting finally reacted as well. He slowly turned his head and looked at Lu Wanra with an extremely unfamiliar gaze. Wanru, his voice was terrifyingly calm. Whose son is he, really? Lu Wanra trembled all over, avoiding his gaze, and stubbornly insisted, Zhenting. He is your son. Jiang Qian forged the report to harm us. Enough. Jiang Zhenting roared, cutting off her lie. No matter how foolish he was, he understood now. He had been deceived by this woman for a full 18 years. He gave his emotions, his money, and even went so far as to betray his family, abandoning his wife and daughter, only to be rewarded with a colossal joke. He became the laughingstock of the entire capital city. Speak. Jiang Zhenting stood up, step by step closing in on Lu Wanru, the storm in his eyes enough to tear a person apart. Whose son is he really? Lu Wanru was so frightened by his imposing manner that she stumbled backward and finally fell to the ground. She looked at Jiang Zhenting's distorted face and knew she could no longer keep it hidden. She suddenly burst into hysterical laughter. Ha ha ha, you want to know? Jiang Zhenting, now you want to know. It's too late. Pointing at me, she laughed until tears streamed down her face. You can't defeat Su Wan, and you can't defeat her daughter either. You think you've won, from start to finish, you've only been a pathetic pawn. His father, Lu Wanra said, word by word, with a vengeful delight on her face, is your most respected elder brother, Jiang Zhenlin. Boom, for Jiang Zhenting was as if struck by lightning, his entire body frozen in place. Jiang Zhenlin, his half-brother, the true eldest son of the Jiang family. Back then, old Master Jiang favored his younger son Jiang Zhenting and gave him the majority of the family business, leaving Jiang Zhenlin with only a small company. Later, Jiang Zhenlin's poor management led to the company's bankruptcy, and the couple died in a car accident. Jiang Zhenting had always felt guilty about this, even taking his elder brother's only son, Jiang Hao, under his care and raising him as his own. And now, Lu Wanra tells him that his most beloved, illegitimate child, is actually his elder brother's offspring. This is even more absurd and ironic than being cuckolded. You're lying. Jiang Zhenting's voice was trembling. Whether I'm lying or not, why don't you go get a paternity test and find out? Lu Wanru, having nothing left to lose, sneered coldly. Your elder brother and his wife died in a suspicious car accident back then. Did you really think it was an accident? Jiang Zhenting, you could even harm your own elder brother for the family fortune. What right do you have to question me here? It wasn't me. Jiang Zhenting lost control and roared. The car accident was an accident. I didn't do it, whether you did it or not. You know the truth in your heart. Lu Wanra stood up, wiped away her tears, and a trace of cold arrogance returned to her face. I got close to you just to get revenge for Zhenlin. I want to ruin your reputation and make you experience what it's like to have nothing. After saying that, she grabbed the equally stunned Linen beside her and turned to leave. Stop, I said coldly. Lu Wanra paused in her steps, turned to look at me with a disdainful expression. What, does Miss Jiang want to invite us to stay for a meal? No need for a meal. I walked up to her, my gaze calm. A life for a life, a debt for a debt. You seek your revenge, I settle my accounts. My mother, because of all your mess, became depressed and passed away early. Who should I settle this account with? My gaze slowly swept over Lu Wanru, Linen, and finally settled on Jiang Zhenting's pale face. None of you will get away. Lu Wanru took half a step back, startled by the coldness in my eyes, but quickly straightened her posture again. What do you want to do? Suwon's death has nothing to do with me, she was just in poor health herself. Is that so? I chuckled lightly, taking another file folder from Shinyuji's hand. Pulling out a stack of photos from it, and slapping them across Lu Wanru's face. In the photos were intimate pictures of Lu Wanru with a man. That man was none other than Gao Wei, the chairman of the Gao group and Jiang Jinting's arch-rival. Is this what you call avenging my uncle? I pointed at the photos, my voice icy cold. Lu Wanru, are you Jiang Jinling's woman, or Gao Wei's woman, or rather, whose pawn are you exactly? Lu Wanru's face instantly turned paler than a corpse. Jiang Jinting also saw the photo. He rushed over abruptly, snatched the photo, and stared fixedly at the radiant smiles of Lu Wanru and Gao Wei. His body trembled like a leaf in the autumn wind. Gao Wei, it's actually Gao Wei, he murmured, as if struck by an even greater blow than before. In the business world, Gao Wei had been his rival for half a lifetime. The enemy he despised most deeply, his own wife, the one who shared his bed, was actually involved with his arch-nemesis. His life was a complete and utter lie. So, I looked at Jiang Jinting, who had completely broken down, and slowly revealed the cruelest truth. Linen is neither your son nor my uncle's son, his real father is Gao Wei. You thought Lu Wanru was avenging your elder brother. Wrong. From the very beginning, she was a spy sent by Gao Wei to destroy you and bring down the Jiang family. You caused your elder brother's death, then let the wolf in through the door. Raising your enemy's son as your own for 17 years, Dad. I walked up to him, looking down at him from above. You are the most ridiculous, the most pitiful person. No, no, Jiang Jinting completely broke down. He clutched his head, let out a mournful cry that sounded inhuman, then his eyes rolled back and he collapsed stiffly to the ground. 5. The morning hall immediately fell into chaos. Shinyuji calmly called for an ambulance, and Lu Wanru, at the moment the truth was revealed, collapsed to the ground, her face ashen. She knew she was finished. Gao Wei would not acknowledge her, and the Jiang family would not let her off. The revenge plan she had meticulously crafted for half her life had, in the end, only paved the way for others, and she herself had become a sacrificial pawn. Only Linen, that innocent boy, stood amidst the wreckage, his eyes hollow as he stared at everything, like a puppet whose soul had been ripped out. His world, on this day, was completely overturned and crushed to pieces. The ambulance arrived quickly and carried away Jiang Jinting, who was foaming at the mouth. Lu Wanru was also restrained by the bodyguards. What awaited her was the judgment of the law. I said to Shinyuji, call the police, report her for corporate espionage, fraud, and attempted murder. My mother's health had always been good, but it took a sharp decline in the past 6 months. I had my suspicions, but I had no evidence. Now that I think about it, Lu Wanru has probably been pulling strings behind the scenes quite a bit. Shinyuji nodded and said, understood. The police took Lu Wanru away. The morning hall finally fell silent. Only Linen and I remained, along with my mother's cold portrait. After a long silence, Linen spoke hoarsely. I don't know anything. I know, I replied calmly. He is a pitiful man, living in a huge lie since birth, used as a tool for revenge. He looked at me, his eyes filled with confusion and helplessness. Where should I go? He has no home. Lu Wanru went to prison. Gao Wei wouldn't acknowledge him, and the Jiang family certainly wouldn't take him in. I thought for a moment, then took a card out of my bag and handed it to him. There's 200,000 in here. The password is 6 zeros. Spend it wisely. It should be enough to get you through college, find a job, and support yourself. He didn't take it, just stared at me in a daze. Why? Because of my mom. I looked at Suwon's gentle smile in the portrait. If she were still alive, she would probably do the same. Every grievance has its perpetrator, every debt its debtor. You have nothing to do with our Jiang family. This money is not out of sympathy, nor is it charity. It's closure. From now on, we owe each other nothing and have no further connection. Lin Nan's eyes reddened. He silently took the card and bowed deeply to me. Then, he turned around, walked out of the morning hall, and disappeared into the sunlight outside the door. I hope he can have a life of his own. 6. Jiang Jinting had a stroke. leaving him partially paralyzed and slurring his words. He lay in the VIP ward of the hospital, the former vigor and high spirits completely gone, leaving only a hollow-eyed, barely surviving wreck. I went to see him once at the hospital. When he saw me, he became agitated, mumbling and babbling as if trying to say something. But not a single word could come out. I just watched him calmly. The company's board of directors has already removed you from all your positions, and the shares you held have been forcibly acquired by me using the evidence of your embezzlement. I told him, your private company was also targeted by Gao Wei, and it has now gone bankrupt and been liquidated. His eyes widened, the whites filled with bloodshot veins, and a hoarse sound came from his throat. As for Lu Wanru, I continued. She was sentenced to 15 years. Gao Wei was clever. He pinned everything on her alone and kept himself completely clean. Oh, and one more thing. I leaned down and whispered in his ear. I sent your uncle's son, your dear nephew Jiang Hao, abroad. Before he left, he told me that during that car accident years ago, he seemed to have seen your car nearby as well. Jiang Zhenting's body convulsed violently, the data on the monitor wildly fluctuating as a piercing alarm sounded. I straightened up and looked at him coldly. Dad, don't get worked up. Live well, live a long life. That way, you can personally witness how I will lead the Jiang family and the Su Corporation to new heights. And you can only lie here, slowly rotting away, repenting for the mistakes you've made for the rest of your life. After saying that, I turned and left, never looking back. Nurses and doctors rushed into the ward, creating a scene of chaos. At the end of the corridor, Shen Yuji was waiting for me. Everything taken care of? He asked. MHM, where to next? Back to the company. I shook my head and looked out the window at the bright sunshine. No, to the cemetery. I want to go see my mom, to tell her that everything is over. I have avenged her. I have protected her kingdom. From now on, I will live well. Carrying her expectations, the Su family cemetery is located on the mountain in the western suburbs of Jing City, with excellent feng shui. My mother's tombstone stands side by side with my grandparents'. In the photo, she remains as gentle and beautiful as ever, with a faint smile in her eyes. I placed a bouquet of white chrysanthemums in front of the tomb, crouched down, and gently wiped the dust off the tombstone with a handkerchief. Mom, I've come to see you. Jiang Zhenting has had a stroke. Lu Wanru is in prison, and I've sent Gao Wei a big gift that will keep him busy for a while. The Su family is doing well, rest assured. I chattered on, just like when I was a child, sharing my joys and sorrows with her. The mountain wind blew, rustling through the pine trees. As if it were her response, Shen Yuji stood not far away, quietly keeping me company without disturbing me. After a long while, I stood up, and the pent-up frustration in my heart seemed to dissipate a little with the mountain breeze. Let's go, I said to Shen Yuji. Shen Yuji walked over, took off his suit jacket, and draped it over my shoulders. The wind is strong up here, don't catch a cold. His voice was as gentle as ever. I pulled my coat tighter, the crisp, pleasant scent of his cologne still lingering on it. Thank you. We walked side by side along the narrow path down the mountain. The fading glow of the sunset stretched our shadows long. Jiang Qian, Shen Yuji suddenly spoke up. What are your plans next? Plans? I tilted my head to look at him, making the company successful and completely crushing Jiang Zhenting and Gao Wei under my feet. Does that count as a plan? Shen Yuji smiled, his eyes behind the gold-rimmed glasses appearing especially gentle in the sunset. It counts, but I'm asking about you yourself. I froze. Myself, after taking revenge. Where should my life go? It seems I've never thought about this question. 7. Back in the city, the lights were just coming on. Shen Yuji saw me off to the apartment building downstairs. Would you like to come up for a cup of tea? I asked politely. He glanced at me and nodded. Sure. I was a bit surprised, but I still led him upstairs. My apartment is a duplex penthouse, a coming-of-age gift my mother bought for me before she passed away. It has an excellent view, overlooking most of the night scenery of Jing City. I made him some tea, and we sat on the sofa in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, momentarily silent. It was Shen Yuji who broke the silence first. Take a look at this document, he said, pulling another file from his briefcase and handing it to me. I took it and found that it was a share transfer agreement. The transferor is my mother, Su Wan. The recipient is Shen Yuji. What is being transferred is 5% of the shares of the Su Group. What does this mean? I was somewhat puzzled. This was given to me by your mother when I first joined the company, Shin explained calmly. She said that if one day she was no longer here, she hoped I could use these shares to help you with all my strength. My heart skipped a beat. My mother had actually anticipated even this step. Now, Shin placed a pen on the agreement. Your position is secure, and you no longer need my protection, so I am returning these shares to their rightful owner. He asked me to sign the documents to transfer the shares back to my name. I looked at him and suddenly understood something. He was not just my mother's lawyer, but also the person she trusted most to entrust her child to. These past few days, he had been running around for me, offering advice and strategies. I thought it was due to his professional ethics as a lawyer. Only now did I realize that behind it all was my mother's heavy entrustment and his own personal affection. I didn't sign. I pushed the document back. This was given to you by my mom, so it's yours. I looked into his eyes and said seriously, besides, I need you. I wasn't just being polite. The Su group is deeply entrenched. Although Jiang Jinting has fallen, the cronies he cultivated are still in place. Gao Wei is watching like a hawk. The business world is like a battlefield. As a girl in my early 20s, even with the backup my mother left behind, I still need a reliable ally. Shin is undoubtedly the best candidate. He understands the Su group better than I do and is more adept at navigating the deceit and intrigue of the business world. Shin seemed not to have expected me to say that and was momentarily stunned. Jiang Qian, you, Attorney Shin, I interrupted him, adopting a businesslike tone. You are now a shareholder of Su Corporation. I hope you can join the board of directors and officially become my ally. Of course, your salary and dividends will definitely not be shortchanged. I even playfully winked. Let's make money together. After all, Shin looked at me for a long time before finally letting out a soft laugh. He looked very handsome when he smiled. The usual calmness and aloofness faded away, leaving only tenderness and helplessness in his eyes. All right, he said, putting away the documents and nodding. As you wish, my chairman. It was meant as a joke, but somehow the atmosphere turned inexplicably ambiguous. My heart skipped a beat for no reason. To hide my embarrassment, I stood up and said, I'll refill your tea. As I turned around, he grabbed my wrist. His palm was warm. With an undeniable force, I turned around and collided with his deep gaze. Within it surged complex emotions I couldn't comprehend. Jiang Qian, he asked, word by word, what if what I want isn't shares, nor a salary? My heartbeat suddenly quickened. What do you want then? I heard my own voice, sounding a bit dry. Shin didn't speak, just quietly looked at me. His gaze was like a fine net, firmly enveloping me. I could sense that something was quietly changing between him and me. Just as I was about to be suffocated by his gaze, he suddenly let go of his hand and stood up. It's very late. I should go back. He had returned to his usual calm and composed self. As if everything that had just happened was merely my illusion, he walked to the door, then turned back. Tomorrow at 10 in the morning, the board meeting. Don't be late. All right. The door shut. I stood alone in the empty living room, my heart in turmoil. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and watched the black Bentley downstairs slowly drive away, disappearing into the traffic. Shin what on earth did he mean? 8. That night, I couldn't sleep. In my mind, I kept replaying the moment he grabbed my wrist and his suggestive question. The next day, I went to the office with dark circles under my eyes. As expected, the board meeting felt like a trap. A group led by the company's veteran, Vice Chairman Wang, has been feigning compliance while secretly obstructing me, the newly appointed chairman. At every turn, Chairman Jiang, you're too young. I'm afraid you won't be able to handle such a large company on your own. Yes, regarding the project with the Gao Group, I think it still requires Chairman Jiang. Oh no, it still needs someone experienced to take charge. They keep saying it's for the good of the company, but in reality, they just want to sideline me and turn me into a puppet. I sat in the main seat, expressionless as I listened to their performance, my fingers tapping intermittently on the table. Just as Deputy Chairman Wang was enthusiastically sharing his valuable experience, the conference room door was pushed open. Shin walked in. He was still in that impeccably tailored suit, with gold-rimmed glasses, exuding an overwhelming presence. Everyone's voices automatically fell silent because of his arrival. Sorry I'm late. He walked to the empty seat beside me and sat down. Vice Chairman Wang's expression turned somewhat unpleasant. Lawyer Shin. This is an internal board meeting of Sioux Corporation, starting today. I tapped the table, interrupting him, my voice not loud but clear enough for everyone to hear. I announced that Mr. Shin Yuji will officially assume the position of CEO of Sioux Corporation and join the board of directors. Does anyone have any objections? The entire room erupted in an uproar. Deputy Chairman Wang was the first to jump to his feet. I object, Chairman Jiang, this is pure nepotism. Although Lawyer Shin is highly capable, he has no experience managing a large company. How can he be appointed as CEO directly? Exactly, this goes against protocol. We don't accept this. A group of people chimed in agreement. I watched them coldly, having anticipated this all along. Vice Chairman Wang, I picked up a document and tossed it in front of him. You mentioned experience, didn't you? Then could you explain why the West City project you were in charge of last month ended up exceeding the budget by 30 million? From what I know, it seems that money ended up in your son's overseas company account, didn't it? Vice Chairman Wang's face instantly turned pale. I then turned my gaze to another person who was making the most noise. Director Lee. The report from the procurement department you're in charge of last quarter seems a bit inflated, doesn't it? That luxury mansion your mistress just bought in the city center must have cost quite a fortune, right? With every word I spoke, someone's face grew paler. By the time I finished, the entire meeting room had fallen into complete silence. They looked at me, their eyes filled with shock and fear. They never expected that this little girl they saw as inexperienced would know all their secrets so thoroughly. All of this, of course, was left to me by my mother. She had long anticipated that this day would come. Now, I scanned the room, my voice icy cold. Does anyone else have an objection to my decision? No one dared to speak up again. I looked at Shin Yuji and gave him a faint smile. He responded with an approving look. The first battle. I had won. 9. In my office after the board meeting, Shin Yuji looked at me, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. It seems your mother left you with more than I imagined. Know yourself and know your enemy. And you will never be defeated. I poured him a cup of coffee. That's what she taught me. Shin Yuji took the coffee, took a sip, and suddenly asked, including investigating my background. My hand holding the coffee cup paused slightly. Yes, I didn't deny it. The moment I decided to put him in an important position, I had a private investigator dig into every detail about him. Shin Yuji, a dual-degree Ph.D. in law and finance from Beijing University. Rejected offers from all top investment banks and law firms after graduation, choosing instead to join the then unremarkable Sioux Group as my mother's assistant. His resume is unbelievably clean. The only thing that raises eyebrows is his family background. Orphan, growing up in an orphanage. I relied on scholarships and part-time work to support my education all the way through to earning a doctorate. Aren't you curious why I chose your mother? Shin Yuji looked at me with a profound gaze. Why? Because, he paused, then uttered a name that shocked me. My financial aid was consistently funded by MS, Sioux, from my high school years all the way until I completed my doctorate. My heart skipped a beat. My mother funded you, yes. Shin Yuji's gaze grew distant, but she never let me know her identity, only under the guise of a kind-hearted person. It wasn't until I graduated and wanted to thank her in person that I managed to find out it was her after much inquiry. I found her and wanted to repay her. She said she didn't need my repayment, but if I truly wanted to do something, I could come to Sioux Corporation and help her. She said she valued my talent and trusted my character. A faint, warm smile curled at the corner of Shin Yuji's lips. She is the light of my life. So, when she said she hoped I could protect you, I agreed, not for shares, not for money, but to repay her for recognizing my worth. I listened in a daze. My heart filled with mixed emotions. So, there was such a history between them. How many paths has my mother paved for me behind the scenes? How many backup plans has she prepared? So, what you asked me yesterday about what I want, I hesitantly began. What I want, Shin Yuji interrupted me, his gaze burning intensely, is to protect you and fulfill your mother's last wish. Are you satisfied with that answer now? His response was flawless. Attributing everything to his promise to my mother and repaying a debt of gratitude, but I always feel there's more to it. The way he looks at me is too focused, too affectionate. Perhaps I'm overthinking it. suppressing the strange emotions in my heart. I smiled at him. I'm very satisfied, CEO Shin. I hope we can cooperate happily in the future. Pleasure working with you, Chairman Jiang. We exchanged a smile, and everything was understood without words. 10. In the days that followed, Shin Yuji and I began to fight side by side. He carried out bold reforms within the company, restructuring personnel and optimizing projects. Meanwhile, I used the connections and information left by my mother to safeguard his reforms in the boardroom and the business world. We worked together seamlessly. The Su Group, under our joint efforts, not only did not collapse due to the founder's passing and the turmoil among the top management, but instead demonstrated unprecedented vitality and potential. Those old-timers who once looked down on me now have to respectfully address me and Shin Yuji as Chairman Jiang and CEO Shin when they see us, and the relationship between Shin Yuji and me has become increasingly subtle as we fight side by side day after day. We are superior and subordinate. We are allies. We are comrades. But sometimes, when working late into the night and he drapes a coat over my shoulders, at celebratory banquets when he drinks all the toasts meant for me, when I'm exhausted from stress and he quietly hands me a cup of warm milk, I can feel that emotion transcending work growing wildly. I don't dare to address it. I'm afraid that once it's exposed, even this rare understanding and companionship will be lost. Until that day, at Gao Wei's birthday banquet. Gao Wei's birthday banquet was held at the most luxurious 7-star hotel in the capital. The banquet hall was dazzling with brilliant lights and elegantly dressed guests. When Shin Yuji and I entered arm in arm, we attracted almost everyone's attention. Gao Weijing was surrounded by a crowd of people, like the moon encircled by stars. When he spotted us, a flicker of malice passed through his murky eyes, but he quickly replaced it with a smiling, treacherous expression and stepped forward to greet us. Oh my, isn't this Chairman Jiang and CEO Shin? What rare guests. I'm honored you've graced this old man's birthday banquet with your presence, he said with a hearty laugh, though his eyes darted over us like a venomous snake. I curved my lips into a polite smile. Chairman Gao, you're too kind. As our elder, it's only right for us juniors to come and celebrate your birthday. As I spoke, I handed over an exquisitely wrapped gift box, a small token of my respect. Not worthy of your regard. Gao Wei's gaze paused on the gift box for a second, a flicker of disdain flashing in his eyes. He probably thought that I, a young girl, had come to yield and seek reconciliation. President Jiang is very thoughtful. He took the gift box and casually handed it to his assistant beside him. Then, changing the subject, he spoke in a voice neither too loud nor too soft, but just enough for those around to hear. Speaking of which, President Jiang is truly young and capable, carrying the entire Su family's business all by yourself. Isn't it exhausting? If you ever face any difficulties, feel free to talk to Uncle Gao. Don't force yourself to bear it all alone. His words were both a probe and an insult. A faint, almost imperceptible snicker rippled through the surroundings. Before I could even speak, Shin Yuji had already stepped forward, subtly shielding me behind him. Thank you for your concern, Chairman Gao. His voice was cool, yet carried an undeniable authority. As long as I'm here, I won't let Qian suffer the burden of the Su family. The two of us will carry it together. And we'll carry it steadily. The words, Qian, and the two of us, so intimate and in sync, instantly shattered all the rumors and gossip. The smile on Gao Wei's face froze for a moment. He narrowed his eyes, sizing up Shin Yuji as if reassessing this opponent. CEO Shin is truly protective of his master, Gao Wei said with a false smile. However, young people shouldn't be too aggressive. The business world is like a battlefield. One wrong move and you lose the whole game. Shinting back then, well, serves as an example. He brought up my father again. I sneered inwardly and was about to retort when the large screen in the banquet hall suddenly lit up. The host's enthusiastic voice rang out. Distinguished guests, to celebrate Chairman Gao's 60th birthday, we have specially prepared a surprise. Let us all take a look back at Chairman Gao's brilliant 60-year journey. The screen began playing carefully edited photos and videos, accompanied by stirring music and narration, portraying Gao Wei as a self-made business legend with unwavering perseverance. The guests applauded one after another, and Gao Wei also revealed a smug, self-satisfied smile. He enjoys this feeling of being the center of attention. I picked up a glass of champagne, gently swirled it, and looked at Shin beside me. He gave me a slight nod. The show is about to begin. 11. The video played halfway, and the screen suddenly flickered, turning into a glaring snowstorm. The music and narration abruptly stopped. What happened? A technical glitch. The guests began to murmur and discuss among themselves. Gao Wei's face darkened as he scolded his assistant in a low voice. At that moment, the static disappeared, and a clear photo appeared on the screen. In the photo was a young Lu Wanru, smiling sweetly as she nestled in a man's arms. That man was none other than Gao Wei. The entire room erupted in an uproar. Gao Wei's face instantly turned deathly pale. Turn it off now, he yelled uncontrollably, but it was already too late. The photos played one after another, from intimate pictures of him and Lu Wanru, to him holding linen as a baby in swaddling clothes, to various photos of him secretly meeting with Lu Wanru and her son behind Jiang Jinting's back over the years. Each one was like a resounding slap, striking Gao Wei's face hard. Oh my god, Linen is actually Gao Wei's son. So Lu Wanru was a spy sent by Gao Wei. Jiang Jinting, this is practically the joke of the year. I always thought Gao Wei was a sinister person, but I never expected he could go this far. The sounds of discussion, disdain, and mockery surged over Gao Wei like a tidal wave. He stood there, his body swaying unsteadily, his face, usually so adept at scheming, now only showing fear and disarray. This wasn't over yet. After the photos were shown, a video began playing on the screen. In the video, Lu Wanru sat in the interrogation room, weeping as she spoke, facing the police's questioning. It was all Gao Wei who made me do it. He said Jiang Junlin was in his way, so he told me to get close to Jiang Jinting and drive a wedge between the brothers. That car accident was also orchestrated by him. He bribed the driver to stage an accident, and afterward, he directed the clues toward Jiang Jinting, making him take the blame for all these years. He promised me that as long as the Jiang family was ruined, he would marry me and acknowledge Nin as his son. He lied to me. He was using me from start to finish. Boom. If the previous photos only ruined Gao Wei's reputation, then this video directly nailed him to the pillar of shame. Murder, commercial sabotage, manipulation of people, each and every one of these acts is enough to condemn him to eternal damnation. It wasn't me. She's lying. She's slandering me. Gao Wei finally snapped back to reality, pointing at the screen and screaming hysterically. Just then, the banquet hall doors swung open. A group of uniformed police officers walked in. The leading officer, with a stern expression, strode directly up to Gao Wei and presented the arrest warrant. Mr. Gao Wei, you are suspected of multiple cases of commercial fraud and intentional homicide. Please come with us. Gao Wei completely collapsed on the ground, still muttering under his breath. It's fake. It's all fake. The police lifted him from the ground and prepared to take him away. As he passed by me, he suddenly struggled, glaring at me with bloodshot eyes as if he wanted to devour me alive. It's you, Jiang Qian. It's you. You bitch, who ruined me. I looked at him with an indifferent expression, slowly raising the champagne glass in my hand. Chairman Gao, are you satisfied with this birthday gift? I smiled faintly, my voice clearly reaching his ears. My mother once said, what goes around comes around. His pupils suddenly contracted, the color draining from his face as if he had seen the most terrifying thing. Eventually, he was dragged away by the police, like a dead dog, disappearing from everyone's sight. A grand birthday banquet had turned into a complete farce. The guests scattered like birds and beasts, afraid of being associated with the storm in any way. Shen Yuji and I walked out of the hotel, the night breeze brushing against our faces, carrying a slight chill. I let out a long sigh of relief, feeling as if the heavy stone that had been weighing on my heart for nearly a year had finally been lifted. It's over, I said. Yeah, it's over. Shen Yuji took off his coat and draped it over my shoulders. My phone rang. It was a call from the hospital. Miss Jiang, your father, he just saw the news and had a sudden cerebral hemorrhage. He didn't make it. I held the phone, remained silent for a moment, and calmly replied, I see, Jiang Jinting, the man who gave me life but also brought me endless pain, has ultimately reached the end of his life in such an undignified way. Fine. For him, and for me, it is a kind of release. I didn't go to the hospital. Instead, I had Shin Yuji drive me to the cemetery in the western suburbs. Under the moonlight, My mother's tombstone stood quietly. I leaned against the cold stone tablet as if resting in her warm embrace. "Mom, it's all over," I whispered. "Gao Wei has been arrested, and Jiang Zhenting is dead. Those who harmed us have received the punishment they deserved. I've avenged you, Suze. I have also protected it. Now, it is even better than before, you can rest assured." By the end, my voice was choked with emotion. The nerves that had been tense all along finally relaxed completely at this moment. Tears uncontrollably streamed down. Shen Yuji didn't say anything, just stood quietly behind me and gently held me in his arms. His embrace was warm and strong, carrying a comforting presence. I leaned against his chest and cried out loud, releasing all my grievances, exhaustion, and pent-up emotions. He simply held me, gently patting my back over and over. After a long while, my sobs gradually subsided. "Thank you, Yuji." I lifted my head and looked at him. The moonlight fell on his handsome face, and his eyes behind the gold-rimmed glasses were as gentle as a deep pool. "Silly." He lowered his head and gently wiped away the tear stains on my face with his fingertip. "I told you, I will protect you." His gaze was too focused, too affectionate, and my heartbeat once again went out of control because of him. I was about to say something. But he slowly lowered his head, his lips, carrying a hint of coolness and the faint scent of cologne, gently pressed against mine. My mind went completely blank in an instant. It was an extremely gentle kiss, yet one that unmistakably conveyed a sense of treasuring. When the kiss ended, he rested his forehead against mine, his breathing somewhat hurried. "Chan-chan." His voice was hoarse, tinged with a hint of nervousness. "I have fulfilled your mother's request. Now I want to ask for an answer for myself." He gazed at me, speaking each word deliberately. "Would you let me spend the rest of my life continuing to protect you, not as a friend, not as an ally, but as a lover?" I looked at him, at the starlight in his eyes and that cautious anticipation, and suddenly smiled. I stood on my tiptoes and took the initiative to kiss his lips. "I do. I am willing to shed all my armor and place my scarred, sincere heart into your hands, because I know that you will cherish it dearly."